Why, hello, fellow gamers. I'm here today to talk to you about something that I find interesting yet irritating. Now, I know it's been a while since my last upload, and I'm sorry about that. I've just been really busy. Anyways, as you can tell from the title, I'll be talking today about why it seems that artists get such huge egos. If you don't understand, basically, I want to see what causes an artist to be so far up their own ass that they have to make the worst takes on the Bluebird app. That, and also how they end up in giant circle jerks. So, where would you even start out with this? There are so many artists, and the spectrum is wide. To really find the answer we're looking for, I'd say that we just see what causes a huge ego in the first place. Now, as far as we know, egos have to do with a few things. Things like self-awareness, self-esteem, and narcissism. From what I've been able to read, it also has to do with a person's wants and desires, so it varies from person to person. Honestly, a lot goes into how a person can develop an ego if that wasn't clear enough. However, to keep it simple, I'm going to focus on the two most common types of egos that I've seen artists develop. By the way, I'm going to give you all a heads up. I'm not a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or even studying in the medical field whatsoever. Everything I'm going to say is based on my own speculation, based off of what I know and what I've read. Forgive me if I use a term incorrectly. The first one I'm calling the vulnerable ego. This is an artist with very low self-confidence and many doubts in their own work. Said artist has trouble interpreting something like confidence and mistaking it as arrogance. This type of mindset usually causes these artists to be a bit more isolated. This also can, ironically, lead to the artist becoming narcissistic to be able to cope with their own thoughts. I know that sounds contradictory, considering that this artist would hate those who are self-absorbed, but everyone's a hypocrite. So in short, this artist is someone who hates their flaws, and instead of dealing with it, they project their flaws onto others in order to take the focus off themselves. With this, they can drag on others who are just trying to vibe, in the meanwhile developing an unhealthy and negative self-obsession. Now, did that make sense at all? Well, I hope it did, because we have another ego to get through. The second one is one I would call the fragile ego. This one is a bit similar to the previous one, but just wait. This artist has a moderate amount of self-esteem. However, over the years, their work has brought them nothing but praise. They feel on top of the world and can be a bit cocky. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but there is a fine line between having self-confidence and being a self-absorbed prick. When so much praise is constantly being thrown at you, sometimes you might get the idea that you're just better than everyone else. However, believing that doesn't mean that you'll always end up with high self-confidence. While this artist sees themselves as great, they can also become neurotic or paranoid. This could be one of the reasons why when certain artists are confronted with criticism, they can become irrationally angry or even feel insulted. In short, this is an artist whose constant praise can lead to an unhealthy mindset, which can lead to the artist developing things like paranoia or anxiety, which can be triggered by an opposing voice or just being told that they should change. Now, something to keep in mind is that both of these egos can happen to artists of all media, but right now the focus is on visual artists. There's quite a lot of horror stories of people interacting with egocentric artists, or tales of artists being shady people in general. Which reminds me, I brought on two friends to do just that. Please welcome my friends Onemanshowoff and Madlibbs.
Hey there, it's me, Trent, the most confused grump ever. So, artists with big egos, eh? I had a story for you guys. I hang out with artist communities, some of which are artists that have pretty big followings because it's almost as if followings don't matter. I mean, I'm already friends with Xena and such, so that should say something. Let me tell you about a guy whose ego was so big that he's willing to throw his friends under the bus and never let them out. His name was Defernix. He goes by a different alias now, so I'm okay with name-dropping this son of a bitch. He seemed like a cool guy at first. He was friends with various artists who would stream together, and they draw all kinds of sinful smut, one of which was a guy named Bronx. However, Bronx ends up making friends with popular artists, some of which were Zone and Shad. I think you might know them. Now, you'd think that the friend who makes friends with popular artists would turn on his friends, but nope. Turns out, Nyx was giving Bronx underhanded messages about how he's been meeting new and more popular friends, but Bronx wasn't abandoning his friends at all. Like, He wasn't like abandoning his friends just because they weren't popular like Zone and Shad. But that didn't stop Nyx from thinking this was some kind of fucking competition. A competition of what? Making friends with popular artists? Jesus Christ. Nyx kept on getting salty about Bronx, calling him toxic, saying he doesn't care about his friends if you're not popular, when that's literally what Nyx has been doing. Nyx didn't give a shit about you if you didn't have 10,000 followers on Twitter. He would tell his peers and friends and fans to block Bronx. Nyx tried to delete a lot of Twitter posts he made that were like underhanded jabs at Bronx and the gang for making friends with pretty popular artists. But people managed to screenshot them before he could delete them to show the receipts and just use the evidence against him. You know that episode of Rick and Morty in Season 3 where Jerry and Rick go on an adventure and Jerry gave Rick all kinds of shit, but Rick has been around a lot more and he knows a lot more than Jerry does? Nyx is Jerry in this case. In fact, it might be Jerry in more ways than one. So Bronx decided to block the fool, and Nyx went on his merry way to get upset and try to get more clout, even though you and I probably have more fan interaction than he does. What a bitch. Moral of the story, I think pride can be okay. Being proud of what you can do is great, but you gotta humble yourself. You'll never stop learning and earning new things from working. Don't let your ego cloud your judgment. I mean, clout is nice, but only for a little while. Friendship matters more, especially with people who inspire you. I ended up befriending well-known artists and communities because I just wanted to talk to them and I wanted to collab with them. That's how I got in touch with you, Xena. I wanted to collab, talk, and play video games with you. And it worked! So, don't be like Nyx. Be a humble guy and don't get upset when a creator of a cartoon follows your friend on Twitter. Just because you have friends who are friends with popular creators doesn't automatically mean they'll leave you behind. We're all human. That's my take. Stay salty, everybody. And gamers.
What's goosey, gang? It's your boy, Madlibbs, here because Miss ZZ summoned me to talk about why artists have big egos most of the time, because if y'all haven't noticed, it tends to happen a lot. Now, personally, I think that the biggest reason that artists tend to have big egos is because we spend a lot of time in our own head, and I am definitely not exempt from this. Most of my childhood was just in my own fucking brain. And that can be kind of a problem when it comes to keeping your ego in check. Because when you spend all this time in your own head and within your own inner circle, you tend to forget that other people exist and have feelings and thoughts. Because of that, you tend to forget that other people can think the same way that you do, and this leads to crazy shit like name theft, pose theft, and color palette theft that hopefully you guys haven't seen examples of because they're goddamn ridiculous, but they do exist. You also tend to forget that other people don't have the same emotional attachment to your art that you do. They can't look into your brain the way that you do and see all the time that you spent and all the energy. They also can't look into your brain and see how deep and developed your characters are when you only have like 2 fucking out of context posts about them. This kind of thing can lead to the crazy prices on commissions and prints that some artists have, which is the reason that delusional artists exists. If you're in your own head, you can also forget that other people don't feel the same way you do on other stuff. And this kind of thing can lead to call-out posts and temper tantrums over minor disagreements because it is so fucking crazy to you that other people don't think the same way that you do. All in all, these egos just come from the fact that a lot of artists isolate themselves to a degree. At least mentally, maybe not always physically and literally. But for the most part, a lot of artists tend to forget that other people exist and that other people can be just as creative as them in different ways, shapes, and forms. So that's my take on it, at least. I really hope that nobody else has this opinion in the video. I want to be super original. Nobody can steal my hot take. I will fucking accuse them of argument theft. You hear me, Hopeless Peaches? It's probably you, isn't it? I'm coming after you. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna transition into the horror story that Miss ZZ asked me to provide if I had any. And I have a bit of a doozy. And I'm gonna have to kind of tiptoe around a lot of stuff in this story because this person still knows me and knows a lot of the people I know. I don't think they know about my YouTube channel or anything, though. So let's hope that they don't find this. So I've known this person for a few years. We don't really talk anymore, but I still follow them on Instagram out of courtesy. They're an artist, and they have this Instagram account where they post like 2% art and 98% everything under the sun. And they use a lot of these posts to sell their art and their old fursuits. Yeah, you heard me. Old, used fursuits that are custom to their characters, by the way. They're not like general things. They're very, very custom. And they don't even sell the whole suit. They would sell just like the mask and like the tail and the feet or something. And they try to sell them for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And then when they get asked why the hell they're selling it for so much, their excuse was that the characters meant a lot to them and that they have a lot of art of those characters and they mean so much and they're so emotionally attached. Which, again, not everybody is as emotionally attached to their characters as they are. A friend of mine actually tried to talk with them in the comments and explain why the hell that doesn't make any sense, especially because it's used. You can't sell something for the same price you bought it for when it's used like that, especially when it's a fursuit. Ugh. Because of this very civil discussion, might I add, they ended up getting 3 call-out posts and 5 vent posts directed at them within like fucking 3 days because they had the audacity to disagree with the price of the mask fucking used fursuit. And then a week later, they made a whole bunch of woe is me posts because no one was buying their used custom fursuit mask for $300. And they used to do that at least once a month. I think they might still do it. I don't know if they're selling anything because I haven't checked on their page recently, thank God. They would post a suit that costs way too much that isn't even a full suit, that they're only selling because they have a lot of art and a lot of emotional attachment to the character. And then they'd make a whole bunch of call-out posts and sad boy posts because none of their 200 followers were buying it. They also tended to make a whole lot of, like, call-out posts for people who dared to say things that they didn't like on the internet, and they would always make sure that you knew that this person is on my blacklist. I'm blacklisting this person, everybody! When again, they had, like, 200 followers, and the people that they were talking about weren't even trying to get art from them anyway. I don't know, this person is a bit of a doozy. Big yikes. Anyway, this bit's gone on for a little bit too long, probably. However many minutes this is long, too long. Get it? Because I shouldn't be here. Anyway, thank you, Miss Zizi, for having me on this collab. You guys should check out my channel. Please don't edit this out, Zizi. Some clouds, ma'am. Just a crumb. Okay, actually, bye. Later.
Everyone, please give these two some support. I love them both very much, despite their low gamer ranks. Anyways, I wanted to touch upon something that Libby had mentioned in her take. The part where she mentions that artists are stuck in their own heads. Now listen, I believe if we take that theory and then tie it in with my own theory about artists becoming self-absorbed pricks and feeling the need to project their issues onto others, that soon becomes something that is a common issue in the community, which I will now get to. That being that artists eat other artists. Now, I don't mean in a cannibalistic way, but listen, if you don't understand, what happens a lot is that most times an artist will go out of their way to mock another artist's work publicly. I see it usually happen to younger artists, but it's definitely not exclusive. This sort of thing happens for a lot of reasons. Insecurity, jealousy, disagreements, pride, or maybe you're just a mean fuck. Whatever the case, it happens and it gets really ugly when it does. I don't know how many of you still remember the Kuno controversy. You know, the time an artist decided to rip apart a younger artist on stream. During that stream, Kuno and his girlfriend made fun of a girl's art, assumed she was autistic, and, quote, broken. People made a big deal about this at the time, and I'm glad they did. It was a direct look at how artists can be disgusting towards other artists. When I rewatched that stream clip, to me it was clear that the comments were made out of jealousy. Now, I understand that the art market is saturated as shit. I understand wanting to climb the social ladder and wanting to make it big. Gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, as they say. However, I'm sure there's better ways to do that besides dogpiling on others. Of course, the only way I can think of is what my friend suggested. Just try to get along with others instead of being a vile piece of shit. I'm sure there's enough room in whatever fucking industry you're trying to get into. So, for my final conclusion, I just want to add that I know mindsets like these aren't exclusive to artists, and in general is a person problem, but that's not the main focus here. And hoping that the art community will just be all lovey-dovey is unrealistic, and I'm aware of that. I guess all I can ask for is, I don't know, stop treating each other like garbage. I don't think that's too much to ask for, right? I truly believe that things would be better if we just all learned to support each other instead of needing to stab each other in the back. Because from the outcome of most of these situations, dogpiling on others helps nobody, and if anything, you're just gonna find yourself with a trending hashtag asking for your cancellation. Anywho, that'll be all from me. I hope you're all staying safe and following your little dreams. Oh, also, I hope to run into more of you on Splatoon because the amount of you who saw me at Splatfest was amazing. I'll see you later, gamers.